Hello and welcome to IndieViews, the show where we speak to indies about their upcoming or recently released titles. I am your host, Cornwall, and today we've had the pleasure of speaking to Harvey Hayman, one half of Studio Morgan, about their upcoming game, Morgan Metal Detective. Now, Morgan Metal Detective is a delightful, cozy adventure that sees you playing as Morgan, a young woman visiting her childhood home of Glasden, a small island in Cornwall in the southwest of England. As you can guess from the name Morgan Metal Detective, the main thrust of the game is metal detecting, going around the island, journaling your adventures, and searching for something that Morgan's grandpa might have always been looking for. You'll get to hear everything about Morgan in the episode, all the way from the founding of Studio Morgan, right up to basically how metal detecting works and how to present the name of the game, at least according to Harvey. This interview was a ton of fun. I absolutely loved it, and I really hope you enjoy tuning in. We're here today with Harvey Hayman of Studio Morgan. Harvey, how's it going?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm in Australia at the moment. I don't usually reside in Australia, but I'm here for a month, and it's nice. It's nice here. Who knew?
No doubt, yeah, amazing, especially in October. That is
Yeah,
the time to do it.
yeah,
I'm very, very envious. And yeah, we're here today to chat about Morgan Metal Detective, which is a super cool, cozy adventure game that's going to be coming out in the near future. So yeah, I guess to kick us off and start us with the start, could you give us a bit of an intro on yourself and sort of like Studio Morgan, how you came to
yeah,
found it?
yeah. So my name is Harvey Hayman, and I'm a game designer and developer. But I'm very very fresh. So I graduated from university in January of this year. I mean, second time graduating from university. But I studied at the National Film and Television School doing their video game design and development master's course over the last 2 years. And I say we, uh, me and Studio's co-founder Holly met while studying at the university, and we worked on a few projects together. And the final year project that we were working on was Morgan Metal Detective. And halfway through the year, like you don't necessarily have to do anything with these final year projects. They don't have to be commercial. It's really just for the sake of doing the course. But we got like halfway through the year, and we got to a point where we're like, this has got too big for us to just do nothing with it, or like kind of give it away for free. Um, so we're like, okay, let's try and make a go of it. So we incorporated, we made a Steam page for the game, and we thought, well, what can we call our studio? Well, the game's called Morgan Metal Detective. Let's just call it Studio Morgan. There's no disagreements to be had there. And like, why mess around with a studio name? Um, yeah,
Absolutely. That's great. That's really good. I really agree with you though on that. I've had a bit of a joke. I'm sure everyone who's been in games for a while has seen a lot of indies with kind of over the
yeah,
top names. Perhaps they're a bit funny. So no, I totally get that going straight to it. That's really cool that you met doing a course. That's
yeah.
what an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and like we we got to know each other really well, and like we know each other's working styles, and like we it's weird. We do not disagree on like anything really. Like we're just like very in sync, and just like yeah, we just agree with what each other are doing all the time. And I think there's quite a clear distinction in terms of what we do, like what we're both good at.
Mm.
So like Holly's fantastic artist, and she's a great level designer, and she's got a great creative eye. And I am a mediocre coder. Um, and I think like an okay games designer. Like I love coming up with ideas, and just like doing this like long think, just staring
No doubt. Yeah, yeah.
staring into the middle distance, and just trying to, because it's like, I mean, it's the same with like so many different creative projects, right? That you're you're trying to solve this like mental puzzle about like how to make something work within the confines of the story and just to make it good and fun. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
No doubt, and I imagine it's one of these things as well. Like even doing it, when you've played games and you just are thinking of how you could fix a problem, perhaps that's become apparent. Is I imagine half the time that long stare ends with like, "This is great, I've totally figured this out," and then 5 minutes later is another 2 minute long stare of none of that actually works. Oh god, this is terrible.
Yeah,
start again. Yeah.
No, exactly. And I've done the long stare before, like lying on my bed next to my desk, and that long stare has just turned into sleep.
Yeah. That's game development. No doubt. That's amazing. That's super, super cool though. I really like that. And it's something that I think it's maybe it's more common than it is apparent, but is like I really love duo studios. Like I think it's funny that often things get interpreted as like everyone's going to be a solo dev or you're a team of 3 or more.
Yeah.
And I think so many of the great indie games and like indie studios that really defined indies were teams of 2. Where, you think of Vlambeer, you think of Subset Games, stuff like this.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool, and especially that you're in sync to the point where like you're able to work on those separate bits, but probably have full confidence that you're all going in the same direction.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I completely trust Holly, and I hope it's kind of likewise in the other direction as well. Yeah, got a lot of respect for each other. I think like when you add that third party in, like it opens it's opened up for discussion more, right?
Totally.
There's not. I mean, hopefully the studio will kind of grow permanently at some point, but like right now we've worked with different collaborators and contractors, and there is a third secret weapon that I'm not mentioning, which is our publishing partner, who's Subsilico, but Subsilico is made up of Graham Hinchliffe, who is just a programmer wizard. He's a one-man porting machine. He's
Wow.
he's doing the porting for Morgan to Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and every time this stopped happening now, but like there were like 5 consecutive weeks where he was having a conversation about the code that I'd written, and he was like, "But you're not a coder, are you, Harvey?" And I was like, "No, yeah, no, yeah, no."
Yeah. That's amazing. I've been there as well, man. I did the computing and web dev degree, and when those people that are good at coding are wizards, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, and no time.
But
and
like,
you've got to just accept that he's the god. And, no, you're right. I am but a shepherd.
I think the galling thing is like when I was writing that code, I did also in the back of my head constantly know there is a better way of doing this, but I've just not got the drive to make it better, and like
Totally.
and it's very much like this will do for now, and like I'll do it better later, but that day never comes. But yeah, he's been absolutely amazing with dealing with our project in the state that it was, and like really helping us to make it much more professional, robust, and performant. Like getting it running on Switch is no mean task. Like given it's like 7-year-old hardware and like a lot of modern mobile phones, like better than the Switch now. Yeah.
That's quite crazy to think about. I didn't realize it was like such a gulf. It makes total sense when you say it, that it's 7-year-old hardware.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense why we're seeing so many like even remasters of old strategy game stuff come into phones before Switch. I guess that's why. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, sad in a way that Nintendo hasn't updated it, but cool to know. Yeah.
I mean, the Switch 2 is coming, right? It will be here next year, and that's all we know. Well, there are some. It seems like reliable leaks available, but yeah, Nintendo's very cagey about any information around it, unless you're like first party or maybe just really, really, really close third party.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, it feels like everyone else has been shouting a bit more about it. Certainly, it felt like you heard dev kits from Microsoft and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully they have some more games this time around.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, but I guess one thing they will have is Morgan Metal Detective for Switch 2, most likely. Which is Morgan Metal Detective is a really cool game. I won't go into describing it because I'll do a terrible job. So could you give us like a quick overview, I guess, of the game and maybe also just where the idea came from for it?
Yeah, sure. So Morgan Metal Detective, we did some pitch practice where we were like talking about this is like in an incubator, and where like we talked about with the title of your game, you should sing it, and like you should like alternate pitch, so it's like people, because you can say Morgan Metal Detective, and then it kind of like what did you say? So Morgan Metal Detective.
That's amazing.
Morgan Detective. Like something really enthusiastic and singy.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's
That's so good. No, the rest of the interview, I'll make a point of doing it too because that's fantastic.
So it is a first-person metal detecting game where you explore the fictional Cornish island of Glasden, searching for things that people have lost. And these things all happen to be made out of metal, fortunately for you with your metal detector. So it's very cozy, it's very safe and nice. You're free to explore the island at your own leisure. So really leaning into this cozy aspect. And another way that it's cozy is that like there's usually something that's really repetitive and you keep doing again and again and again and again, but it's fun and addicting. And that is using a metal detector. It goes.
So you did the sound yourself for the
No.
game. Amazing.
Our sound designers are great. It sounds beautiful, and like the metal detector has this like lovely harmonious sound. I mean, like the way a metal detector works is it has like different frequencies that it picks up of metals, and like the lower frequencies are like iron and like foil, and then like the higher frequencies are more precious metals like gold and silver. And so some metals are made up of like multiple kind of frequencies. So when you get those ones, so like a brass or a nickel, we have it so the different frequencies harmonize and sing together, which sounds nice.
It does indeed.
So yeah, in terms of what you do in the game, there are different people around the island who have all lost things, and they'll give you clues about where they happen to lose this item or where it was last seen. And there's a kind of a light puzzling element about kind of where on the island this thing is. And then when you return it to them, you are rewarded with a musical tape. So there's like lots of different music tracks that were written by a brilliant composer on the project, Rotem Frima, and I should probably sing her name as well. Rotem Frima.
Very good. I'll get picked up perfectly.
Oh my god.
It is so good. It is. I should do it in every sentence in normal speech. Yeah.
And so there's this loop of helping people around the island, and once you've helped lots of other people, it opens up this kind of last quest, which is kind of like the end game. But there's a whole other loop which goes on the island, which is you'll find these quest items, but you also find a lot of rubbish that's hidden underground, and some things are worth more than other things. So you can basically take these things that you've found and exchange them in at the shop in the village, and in exchange you get credits, and with those credits you can buy more film for your instant camera. I'm not going to say the word associated with instant camera. Um,
Instant camera
instant
as well. Yeah,
camera.
give it the full read. Yeah.
I mean, doing the games course at the National Film and Television School, our kind of course head, Alan, he was always made the point of saying, like, you do not want to get yourself in hot water with any kind of potential IP infringement. So just avoid it. Don't go near it.
This is such it's a fascinating discussion. There's a whole thing with obviously that impacts guns in games,
Yeah.
and lots of gun enthusiasts talk about why are games developers so scared of calling guns by their real names, despite guns that were made 200 years ago or manufacturers that went defunct in 1920, and devs will still be like, but you never know, someone's great grandson may say.
No,
so
you don't. You never want your game to be pulled, or for you to be over the barrel in an IP discussion with the rights holder. And it's interesting. I played a demo at South by Southwest. I was at South by Southwest Sydney. I was at last week, called Mind Diver, and I really recommend checking out the demo. I thought it was amazing, but it uses photogrammetry for all of the characters and the environments, which I haven't seen in a game before. It's very novel, and it's also in a way really cheap. Like it's easy, totally. It's kind of free. It's like the equivalent of taking a camera and pointing it at the world, and you're kind of doing it less easily, but still kind of you are just taking pictures of the world and putting it into a 3D space. But they have the brands on everything. You can read the brands on the photogrammetry of all of the clothing they're wearing and kind of gadgets in the background. And I was like, I've never seen this in a game before. And I mean, the thing is with like film and TV, like, it doesn't matter. Like you see a brand in film and TV, and you're like, yeah, it's completely normal. Like you don't have to hide it. Like most brands like don't care. But in games, they do. And like no one wants to show it because they're terrified about it. But Mind Diver is taking a dive into the unknown.
There you go. I don't know if you told them that tagline, but it's fantastic.
Mind Diver.
Oh, incredible! I hope you gave them all this advice on taglines, on pronunciation of.
They weren't there. They weren't there. So yeah,
they just sent the game. Their photogrammetry this way.
Yeah, their game was there, but they had a volunteer who was running the stall, and he'd had a chat with the developers, and it's coming out next year apparently, maybe. The demo's on Steam, but the demo's like 2 years old, but apparently it's changed a lot since then, and they've changed their photogrammetry technique. But we're talking about Morgan Metal Detective.
I was about to say, they didn't accept the IndieViews invite, whoever they are. But no, well, good for them. But totally, yeah. I mean, about Morgan.
Yeah.
Why metal detecting?
Yeah.
Are you a big metal detector in real life?
It's detectorist.
I'm sorry, I'm a metal detectorist. I wasn't sure if this show was accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be this pedant's corner, isn't it? I'm not a metal detector. This is the BP.
That's kind of the pun I was thinking of when saying it. Yeah, but it does make. Well, is that why? Is that why they call themselves detectorists? Because they don't like being confused for their own tools.
Yeah, they're not a tool.
I love that. Good for them. You know, I'm not a lumberjack. I'm a lumberjacker. Yeah, I get it. But I take it you're not a detectorist then IRL.
Well, I think it's like a very unglamorous, kind of uninteresting reason of like, and it kind of it's kind of linked to what I was saying earlier. When I think it was kind of before we started recording, but we were talking about the creative process and like how you come up with ideas. Did we talk about it in the conversation right now? or in the pre-chat.
I think it was a bit in the pre.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pre-chat. Anyway, this idea of where do ideas come from, and how, and kind of what's your creative process. And for me, a big part of it is just sitting and thinking, and it doesn't look very interesting. But at the start of this project, as part of the process at the National Film and Television School video game design and development course, at the start of the final year project, we have to pitch 3 different concepts, and so was thinking about kind of idea generation, ideation, and once we kind of settled on this metal detecting idea, like it was our mainstay, and we wanted to go for it. But in terms of coming up with the idea, I remember I was in the car in Cornwall, getting driven to Bodmin Parkway, and to take the train back to London. And I think I was in the middle of a conversation, and it kind of like popped into my head while I was having the conversation. But I was like, I think like mudlarking would make a really interesting video game.
Wow, yeah.
And then I worked through that. And so, I mean, like, if anyone doesn't know what mudlarking is, it's where you go to an estuary, so the inlet of the river entering the sea, and you go down to the mud banks, and you wade through the water and the mud, and you search for items that have been washed up with the tide coming in now. And people often use metal detectors to help them do this, but they sometimes just use their gloves. It looks horrible.
Yeah, the ones on the Thames, it always is like, Jesus, people are like, look what I found. And you're like, I don't think it was worth it for that half a broken plate. Like, that looks awful. Yeah.
And like, you need a license to do it on the Thames.
So they're interesting.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Otherwise, millions of folk, I guess, would just be down there,
yeah,
larking around.
I've done it and not realised that I wasn't allowed to do it.
Oh, wow, right.
Yeah, I mean, I was just walking along there and just like, oh, there's some interesting looking bones. I'm just saying that I have some bones in my house.
And that when you leant down to touch it, someone shouted, "Are you licensed, sir?" And you grab the bones.
I found some bones when I was illegally mudlarking, and my wife doesn't like them being in the house.
They're cursed in multiple ways.
Anyway, I thought, okay, why limit it to the mud banks, and you can take a metal detector anywhere. So kind of expanded to metal detecting, and then kind of settled on Cornwall as the kind of the natural home. And I think the reason we ended up with Cornwall is because for Holly and I, both growing up separately, it was like our holiday destination as families. And so like
cool.
it's associated with like relaxation, and I mean, like, we want to evoke the sense of a summer holiday in Morgan Metal Detective, where like it's carefree. You've got the whole summer holiday ahead of you, and you've got that childlike freeness and lack of worry. And I think that is what at least a load of cozy games was about. Like with A Short Hike, I think it evokes that really well.
Totally.
Where the music's beautiful, it's a joy to explore, and you just want to find out what is around every single corner and explore everything.
No doubt. Oh, that's really cool. I think that's really interesting to hear how that the genesis of the idea came out. I think you're absolutely right. It's much harder to market a game, especially like on TikTok, when every screen is just like mud banks. Just like, here's a river and a load of mud. And it's like, oh, right, cozy game, get in the mud, you know?
Well, I mean, I can also tell a fib and a half fib, which is, so Holly's uncle is a detectorist. he does
Oh right,
he
oh
does
cool.
go out with a metal detector, but that isn't the reason we made the game. And I was just like, I just came up with the idea for it, and then she's like, "Oh, my uncle's a detectorist," and then we did go out with him, like a few times, and
Sick,
like
yeah.
try it out. And we went out with our sound designers, and they brought all of their recording equipment and recorded a load of it. We didn't use any of it, but
No doubt,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
fun. Um,
Sounds it,
and
yeah.
it's like, have you ever done it?
No, I've always wanted to, but it's always that thing of thinking, oh, I'm going to buy a metal detector and then use it once.
Yeah.
But it does seem a lot of fun. I'm from where I'm from. They found that the Galloway hoard was found by a metal detectorist in a field, and it's one of the most important Viking discoveries ever. And I'm like, oh, so
Yeah, and
I'd love to, yeah,
there are treasure troves that are waiting to be found around the UK. It's like the
no
UK is
doubt,
probably one of the best countries in the world to do it, right?
yeah, yeah. So many changes, so many people burning down villages, and something getting buried to hide it, and yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's fun. Like Holly's uncle, um, he his partner, his husband gets like really annoyed at him sometimes. So he'll go out at like 7 o'clock at night, out into the Essex countryside with his metal detector, and he's got his head torch on, and he won't come back till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, yeah. He's not even looked up for five
No,
hours. He's just been looking down, yeah.
it's
45-degree
it's just
angle.
like one more hole.
One more beep. Just give me a beep, son. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, and like he goes over the same ground again and again and again. Like he
Right.
must have gone over the same field like thousands of times, like in what seems like the exact same spot, but it's slightly different. So like I think it's really easy to understand like how people miss hoards, because like these metal detectors are rubbish.
No doubt, right? There's so
Yeah,
much rock and stuff, I
yeah,
imagine, as well.
yeah.
One weirdly placed thing, yeah.
It's hard, and like you have to be quite skilled at using it and reading it, and like you don't want to waste your time on stuff which is rubbish. So like
Mm.
you start to get a sense of like, oh, that'll be a crisp packet, or like, oh, that'll be a bit of aluminium foil. um yeah, or like that'll be a nut, that'll be like like it like a lot of detectorists will cut out the iron part of the band because they don't want to find
Makes
any of that,
sense,
and
yeah.
they'll just keep it to coins. Um, but then
That's
I've watched like a few YouTube videos where like some people have changed it to the coin setting, only that, and then they don't find anything. So just to give themselves a bit of a win, they put it back
yeah,
on
no
the iron
doubt,
one.
yeah. They found some good nails
Yeah,
today. At least it
exactly.
was something. Yeah, no doubt though. I always thought there's a Grips of the Time team where which is an archaeology show in the UK if anyone's not heard of it or used to be. But a guy in that is they're doing a spoil heap with a metal detector and he finds a gold coin and the dude is like proper like shaking like
Yeah,
crazy and he says he's just like this is every metal detector's
yeah,
dream and literally no one ever finds a
yeah,
gold coin.
yeah.
Like it is amazingly rare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And you mentioned actually there about Morgan being like a cozy game. And
Mm,
then it's funny because I think cozy games are like it's not I hope we get where we can say we're the year of cozy games, but I feel like we're almost approaching it. Like every year
yeah.
people are more interested in cozy games and changing the experience, I guess, from being often like a gameplay or mechanically led thing to being more an experiential led. But I think there's also a lot of kind of slight misalignment perhaps on what actually cozy game
Mm,
means. So I guess when you were like working on Morgan and setting out your ideas for it, what do you, to you, what's a cozy game, and kind of
yeah.
like what in what ways did you want to go for the coziness, and maybe in other ways avoid certain areas or
Yeah.
what have you?
Um, I think our what's become our studio's mantra is to make games that Holly would play. She
Get halfway through development, you're like, would you play it yet? No, not
no,
yet. It's
sorry.
like another month. Come on. Yeah.
Um, like Holly is our like archetypal cozy gamer.
Mm.
So it skews identifying female. It's kind of between the range of like 18 to 35, maybe a bit older. Plays on Switch a lot of the time. So that's kind of like our target audience. I mean, there's also the dad gamers as well. Like it's a metal detector. It's a dad toy.
Totally.
Yeah. So there's that part as well. So we need to make sure we do appeal to that, and the other part's like families as well. So the game's writer Ruby has a 5-6 year old daughter, and Ruby struggles to find games that she wants to play with her daughter. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like cooperative, but like just games they're playing at the same time. And one of her favorites is Alba, a wildlife adventure, which is made by Us Two Games.
Yeah.
And it is a massive inspiration for Morgan Metal Detective. And so we want to evoke that same kind of spirit of like games which are appealing for like a really wide range of audiences. And I think that's one thing that Us Two Games does remarkably well is the games are very they're suitable for all audiences. Like there's not going to be any swearing. There's not going to be any kind of particularly challenging themes in there, but they're going to be bloody pleasant. Like you're going to have an extremely pleasant time. And no one's going to kill you.
Yet you still made that sound like a threat. You're going to have a bloody present time. You watch yourself.
Yeah, so yeah, what is a cozy game? No threat. There's no threat against you. And you understand that implicitly as a player that nothing you can do will be wrong. It's like you won't be penalized for anything you do. It's probably not always true. I think it's an atmosphere thing. Like it's the environment.
Totally.
It's like it's going to be in the music. It's going to be in the colors. It's going to be soft palettes. It's going to be joyful. It's going to be light and breezy. And there's probably a 1,000 other things you could.
Totally. I think we've hit the main points though of it, but for sure. And no, Morgan feels like it really hits that, and it's. I really like what you. I think it's really cool actually, for a way of looking at it. What you're saying about the summer holiday thing and that vibe of like trying to feel like summer holidays, because real life, like summer holidays when you're a kid, is like the true cozy period, right? Where you truly do have that like that no fail thing. You're not thinking about school the next day or bad homework.
Yeah.
And we kind of lose that as adults for the most, in many ways. I guess maybe that's why cozy games are getting so popular. We're all trying to go back.
It's rediscovering that. Yeah. Oh, I think the other one for a cozy game often is this sense of repetition, and the sense of having to complete fairly mundane tasks in a repetitive way, like with like Stardew Valley, like you're repeating the same thing over and over with farming.
Totally.
And with Animal Crossing, like you're going around kind of like harvesting things in the environment and like fishing, and it's this cycle of wanting to get more resources and money, and so you can improve your home. And that's like an extremely mundane thing, right? You do that in your life already, but you're kind of just repeating that in video game form. So why do we find that so soothing? But it's soothing.
Duh. It's interesting. It's funny how much like Animal Crossing set a lot of these ideas, and on paper, especially for the time, it's crazy they made it, because on paper it's like the opposite of what you'd think people would have liked at that time, when everything was very sort of mechanically grabby to just keep you interested.
When it predates the cozy label, right? Which kind of
Yeah, totally.
appeared like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't actually know the first time it was used, but like the I think that The Sims is like the king, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
It's that commonality that like so many people have of like it being for a lot of people it's the only video game they ever played.
Totally.
On their family PC, they played The Sims. It was as common as Solitaire, and Pinball Wizard, whatever it was called.
Space Cadet, yeah.
What was it? What was it called?
It was like, see, you know, I'm wondering if I'm saying Space Cadet, because in Scotland we say Space Cadet to be someone's a bit away with it, but it was called like Space something. But yeah, the little pinball game with the little guy and his ship at the top left. Yeah, classic. That's really cool though. It's nice to hear that. I think, yeah, it's cool that we're in a point where cozy games are getting bigger. And I think it's interesting you mentioned about The Sims, because it's like The Sims then it shows the true darkness of people. That it's like you take a cozy game like that and then you build a swimming pool with no way out, and then that's all you guys do all the time.
Yeah.
And like, and that's so universal as well that you're like, with the coziness being universal, there's also a darkness that is universal to everybody.
Well, I guess that is the point, isn't it? Like it was made when cozy games like it was completely not a label.
Totally.
Just it's a life simulator, and people die and people are born, and people make babies. You know, people go do their jobs. Like if you were making a strictly cozy version of The Sims, would people die? Would people die in the cozy Sims?
Get real heavy in the middle, man. I think that should be a topic for like some of these game events where they have these like dry as shit like panel discussions about like, you know, some really specific aspect. They should have in a cozy Sims, can you kill? Yeah.
Yeah, and are you actually the murderer in The Sims? Like if you place all the rubber plants next to the fire, does that make you the murderer?
Or is it just misadventure? Yeah. All these tables happened to be around the fireplace, and that's not my fault. If he could climb over tables like a normal person, he could get out of this room. Amazing. Yeah, we talked a minute there about like the characters that were in. You're saying about perhaps we'll talk a little bit more about your grandpa's footsteps later on. But one of the things that really struck me in the demo, which was on Steam, is I absolutely loved the voice acting for Morgan's mother. It reminded me so much of my own mum in like the eccentricity. I mean, even more heightened, obviously. But I really, really loved that, and it made me wonder like what kind of characters you're going to be interacting with. So I guess her family's from there then generally. So are we going to just be meeting the whole Morgan family, or?
Yeah, so there are 3 Morgan family characters on the island. So you've got Morgan, you've got her mum, and her grandpa kind of exists as a character in tape form, right? You've got the recordings of your grandpa left over, and he's kind of like the central part of Morgan's story, exploring the island and the finale of the game. And it's about kind of Morgan kind of reconnecting with her family kind of through the island and through the metal detector. So like this is her grandpa's old metal detector. You're picking it up. You're almost like picking up the mantle of his legacy that he left, and he kind of sets this quest for you that he wasn't quite able to finish, of that the island is losing magic, and there's this long lost cairn. If only he could find it, he could restore the magic to the island. So this is the quest that Morgan is put on, to try and find where this long lost cairn is, and she might find it.
Spoilers, she might find it.
She might find it.
She might find it. Maybe it's a really sad end. There is no Karen. Magic's gone.
Did you say Magic
The end.
Scone?
Yeah, magic scone. Magic scone. That's it. Yeah, it's not a cairn. It's a magic scone. Weirdly, on the island of Glasden in Cornwall. Who would have thought it, man?
Uh, we invented a new metal for the game um, called Rabven.
Rab. That's cool.
Rabven. Rabven, and it's this crystalline metal. So it kind of looks like a crystal, but it's a metal. Um,
That's cool.
Don't know why I'm bringing it up.
Wow, I like it though. No, I'm clearly very proud of it.
We invented a new metal.
Which also is just like we made a name for a metal. That's why did you make a name for a metal? Did you think we needed to fill this space out on the detector, or are we just like we need to, in case it ever becomes real?
We
put
want
our stamp on it.
We wanted this brand new metal. We kind of imagined it was unique to this Cornish island, and it holds magical properties. So there is a level of magic that exists on this island, which is imbued into this rock metal thing. Yeah,
that's very cool. And is it based at all on a real place? Because I know you're saying so it's Cornwall for the holidays. I think it's really cool that you said it's somewhere that you shared through such a like not being from there thing. I just think quite often when people set something like that, like the first episode of IndieViews we did was on a Highland song, and we were talking to Joseph Humphreys from Inkle, and he was talking about it was like growing up in the Dundee area is what made him want to do that. So I really like it's a summer holiday thing, and it's almost, it captures more of that time and place. But why Glasden? Is it based on anywhere real that you went in Cornwall, or is it just, and why an island?
Yeah. So I think the closest comparison, and where Holly used a lot of references when designing the island, is like St Michael's Mount in Cornwall, which is an island. Maybe it is. It's on a sand spit. I don't know if it makes it an island or not.
Yeah, all intents and purposes. I'm sure they like to call themselves proud islanders.
Yeah, I don't know. But like it picks up elements from lots of different parts of Cornwall, and I think it feels like kind of the north coast of Cornwall, and in terms of the type of foliage which is everywhere, and fauna, and like Holly was like quite meticulous with getting like a wide array of like flowers and bushes, to try and look interesting, and it's quite tropical as well. What was the second part? What was the second part to your question?
Well, it was also why an island?
Yeah, why an island? You see a lot of games set on islands, don't you?
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought about it when I was playing it. I was like, I wonder if it's one of these things where you almost tumble into it and it just feels natural to game boundaries, or if there's a greater feeling to it.
I think it's a large part of it. I mean, like, I don't think I've been to a Cornish island except for St Michael's Mount.
Right.
And I think from a game perspective, it's very useful to, that being the limiting factor of where you can go, and it's obvious you can go everywhere because it's an island, but actually it's quite a limiting space in a lot of ways, and I think some of our key inspirations did it. In like Alba, a wildlife adventure, is on an island. Totally. The short hike is on an island. I think it's just very sensible.
Totally.
Yeah.
So also, you reminded me there that us two games up until start of this year, I was calling Ustwo, and I realized how dumb I'd looked for years. Ustwo. Bloody hell. But yeah, no, it totally makes sense though. I get that, of like because also it's that naturalness that you don't have that horrible dissonance of being immersed in the world and then getting to the edge of the map and then invisible wall or like a fence that just traps you all in, and like the Truman Show or something. So totally.
Yeah, and I think like when you put a wall at the edge of a cliff on an island, as much as players want to throw themselves over the edge, I think like
All the time.
them being restricted and not being able to, like, they're fine with it. They're absolutely chill.
Totally.
But like just coming to a one particular big hill they can't go up, or like a tree line they can't get through. Um, yeah, it feels like a weird restriction sometimes in a game.
Definitely. I think that coziness as well, almost. It's like, it's interesting that, like, when we talk about immersion in games and we talk about immersive games, people often really focus on like the photorealistic, high
Yeah,
fidelity kind of stuff, RPGs. But actually, cozy games are almost like the most immersive,
yeah,
because it's like you just relax into it,
yeah,
and I think that breaking that immersion in that way, yeah, can totally take away from that cozy
yeah.
experience. So it
Well,
makes a lot of sense.
well, I mean, like even if you think about the map with GTA, right? It's even though it's a suburban environment in lots of the games,
Hmm.
um, and then like does go to big kind of wild nature environments. It's an island, and like it
Totally.
doesn't make any sense. Like it's just that
Yeah, yeah, absolutely
it's
not.
the east or the west coast of a part of America, and yet you're on an island. Like it doesn't have to make sense for it to feel nice, and
Mm.
just work.
Totally, yeah. It's almost, yeah, exactly. It's more important that it needs to make sense in the moment of
Yeah,
feeling it and playing it, more than it makes sense in some sort of, yeah,
yeah.
theoretical um pulled out sense. Although, yeah, I'm sure then there's people out there. There's, like my brother is with historical accuracy. I'm sure there's geography nerds being like, well, actually, if it was an island, it would never have a hill this tall.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a YouTuber I've got into recently. I can't remember his name, but he's doing mad videos where he like follows a
uh,
source of
Follows rivers. I've
yeah,
been watching them
yeah,
too, man. Surprisingly incredible, huh? That
yeah,
first one, I loved it. I think the first one that got really big. I can't remember what game it was. He's following the rivers in, but that he had actually ended up commenting on the video, being like, "I guess I should do more of these river videos, right?"
yeah,
Because the dude had
yeah,
had like normal views in all his
yeah.
videos, and then everyone's like, "Where do the
Rivers,
rivers go in
rivers.
that game?"
Yeah,
I need to see that, man. Yeah, I love that, man. It definitely is that weird, like, oh, we've definitely all got something wrong with us. That all these gamers are all just like, yeah, show me the rivers. Show me how they flow. Was it
just
Skyrim the first one he did?
yeah, Skyrim, and like his Breath of the Wild and his Tears of the Kingdom ones are great. Um,
Totally.
because you're like, where does it all come from? Where is the source of water in Hyrule?
Yeah. And it's also, I guess it's part of it. There's almost, I imagine for you as well, like a game designer level world design aspect, which is also like seeing if those devs thought about that and if they went far enough to consider that. Because on
Yeah,
a game like Skyrim, or you imagine, there's so many things to think about, that
yeah,
the logic of water flow doesn't, or often probably does, just fall by the wayside about halfway through.
yeah. They didn't need to do it.
Very cool.
They didn't need to do it.
Totally.
Yeah. But in in the Zelda ones, like it looks like they really did think about it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
So that's Nintendo for you,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And you've got all that time. That's awesome. And so we've talked there about, like, as well, that you're finding this cairn that your grandpa had always wanted to do, and that's a big part of your journey. And you're going to be chronicling that journey through this journal that you can then, like, do a little bit of customization with. So, like, did you always was journaling always then what you thought you were going to do, having this
mm,
kind of diegenic or like in world tracking of
yeah,
what's happening in the game, or did you start with a sort of traditional quest log and then
yeah.
moved over?
I think the first thing we started exploring was the metal detector, and like making sure that was fun to be able to do. And like
Hmm.
we tried lots of different ways of that working. And like we initially had it so you could dig anywhere in the island, um, but found that that was actually a little bit frustrating when you use a metal detector and then you go to dig, and if you digged in like a slightly different place to where the metal detector was detecting, then you don't find it. It's very
Hmm.
accurate to what happens in the real world because you
No, I was going to say, no doubt. Yeah. I imagine that all the real detectorists would be like, oh,
yeah,
yeah, he feels as he sees us.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's like one like micro measurement away from it's completely binary, right? You're gonna miss it. As it's gonna just drop off at one point. And you won't
Totally.
find it. Um, yeah, it didn't feel nice. So we changed it. So um, when you found something at the peak of its response, then you get an indicator saying press whatever to dig, and you will always find the item when it says that, and that feels much nicer. And so I think kind of like following on from that, we wanted to explore systems and mechanics which reinforce the enjoyment around metal detecting. And so we need to find a way of like the logging the items that you found, and having somewhere to log those items makes sense. Somewhere where Morgan is writing it down, and so journal kind of makes a lot of sense with it. And we added the sticker thing in, that just felt like a nice idea to add. But actually, that becomes like a really good incentive to find more rubbish and trade it in, because then you can buy more sticker packs, and so you can make your journal look more interesting. And it's the exact same thing with the instant camera that you have in the game, where you're limited with the number of photos you can take. Like, you start off, when you're given the instant camera, you only have 10 photos you can take, and if you want to take any more, you have to trade some stuff in at the shop and buy more film. And so it's got this kind of feedback loop of being like, okay, well, I'm really enjoying taking these photos. I want to take more, so I'm going to have to earn some money. But it was really critical to us that it's all about player expression, and if the player is enjoying making their journal look nice, it's going to keep this cycle going round and round, and they're going to metal detect more, find more stuff, trade it in, buy more stickers, buy more film for their instant camera, and it goes round and round and round. Yeah.
It's very cool. I know, I love that. I think it's I really appreciated it. And like, I'm not even someone who, like, in real life, I always, as a kid, you always try to keep diaries.
Yeah.
You do one day and then leave it. But the thing I always enjoyed was buying a load of stickers and things like that and putting them in. And
Yeah.
I think the fact that you're personalizing the quest log in a way of the game is really cool, because I think a lot of games, they just don't take that final step, and effectively they make it something like a journal,
Yeah.
but then it just becomes essentially a menu that you have to flick through, or has animations instead of being quick.
Yeah.
And I love it. The instant camera stuff that you're talking about too, because it does something that I think more games should do, which is that it's like you've almost made like all these games that added screenshot modes that are like cool things, and then you do them once and you go, oh, so this is just to take screenshots.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really typically sit and go through my screenshot folders after playing a game, so I'll go past it. But the fact that you've then incorporated that actually into the game, so then not just, I'll go back in 2 weeks and check my Windows folder. You're actually like flicking through the page like, oh man, yeah, that sunset was super cool. I just love that. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Cheers. Yeah.
No, definitely. I really can't wait to take a load of photos. And also, that's it. I used to take a load of photos when I was younger, and I think it's amazing now the amount of people who put photography as an interest, probably because of Instagram. But I think as we get older, we all just, I mean, this is it, right? You just don't have as much time to do stuff, or maybe the energy to do stuff. And going out and taking photos in nature isn't something we typically do as someone in our early 30s or whatever. So actually having that back in the game again just evokes that. You're saying the summer holiday thing again. It's taking you back to that kind of more carefree time. That's super fun. And I guess that brings us to our kind of main last question, which is, we talked a little bit earlier about the incredible luck that your publisher is able to port stuff like on their own almost to multiple platforms, which is incredible. But it's just, I was amazed to see it. It's rare to see indie games coming out on so many platforms. Often rare to see them coming out on console at all, kind of outside the Switch, I guess. Did you always know that you were going to launch on everything? Was this a suggestion? You're like, gulp, okay, that's a lot of certification, but let's go.
Yeah, I mean, no, we didn't always know that we were going to do it. And I think if it was just Holly and myself, we wouldn't have done it. Like it's not necessarily too hard. It's just there's a lot to learn. So I don't think porting is um, itself necessarily a difficult thing, but like it does require experience and know-how, and someone who's done it a lot is going to be much better at someone who hasn't done it. And yeah, we met Graham when we were showcasing at EGX last year, and yeah, he basically approached us to ask if we'd be interested in him publishing the game and him kind of doing the porting on it. And so like Graham is a talented developer. Like he's worked on some like really high profile video games doing the porting. Like he does that as a kind of freelance job, but kind of he started up this business Subsilico as kind of like a publishing arm where kind of he's providing this kind of awesome like porting kind of expertise, and he's bringing it to consoles, which is it's just a bar that would have been really difficult for us to hit. And we were considering like the traditional publisher route, but like even at kind of January of 2024 of the start of this year, kind of when we were kind of approaching a few different publishers and kind of talking with them about the proposal of funding the game, but mainly funding porting. Didn't really get much interest from a lot of them in the traditional publishers, and I think it was kind of too late stage, and we were a very young studio, but yeah, no, Graham Subsilico took a chance on us, and he's been like wonderful to work with. Yeah, and it's a really kind of interesting, kind of unique model, which is based on Graham's skill set, I think.
That's very cool. Yeah, it sounds unique even from the outside of it, and
Yeah.
definitely like it sounds like a really good partnership though for like
Yeah.
as you're saying, even young studio stuff of not getting like locked in with a publisher
Yeah.
who's like, no, this is what we want,
Yeah.
hitting all these milestones, but also like avoiding the porting because of difficulty. Like it is that thing of it's like finding just the right person
Yeah.
who just has the right skills, and suddenly a hard thing becomes, or a very time consuming
Yeah.
thing, or whatever it would be, becomes straightforward.
I mean, I've met a couple of developers recently who are like very proud that they've done the porting themselves, and I respect that massively. And I think it's going to be like an amazing cost saving process for them going forward. And it's very much a case of like if you design it right up front and you're a good developer, it just makes that process much simpler. You design your assets in a way where they're going to be optimized for Switch from the get go. You're kind of like it's entrenched in the way that you work and you think. And if you hadn't done that porting yourself, you just don't have that know-how necessarily, unless you're a giant super studio, and then you live and breathe it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, well, amazing. I'm so excited to see it. And I'm sure everyone listening is excited to see it too. And I'm very happy to hear they can play it on everything. I think often on interviews, I'm sure there's a lot of console gamers who end every episode disappointed that they'll never get to play it, or, who knows for the moment. But I'm sure they'll be very excited about this one. So best place to keep up with updates on Morgan Metal Detective, hit you guys up on Instagram, social, everywhere, yeah?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, TikTok, big on there, big on Instagram. And it feels like X is being executed at the moment. So see you on Blue Sky.
Oh, is that the new one, Blue Sky?
Yeah.
I remember this was one of the competitors, right?
Yeah.
And then never did.
Oh,
never quite got there.
It's happening.
But is it coming back?
This is it. This is the death of MySpace, baby.
Can't wait, man.
Yeah.
This is it. It feels like it's been a long time coming. Most of us left, and then you look back at Twitter and you go, "Are the people still there?" And you're like, "Why are you still here, guys?"
Yeah.
Like, it's like the building's on fire, and you are just standing in the middle, going, "I'm still sharing this article from the Guardian." And it's like, man, you're fighting a losing battle over there, you know.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Harvey, for chatting to us about Morgan Metal
Yeah,
Detective.
sing it, sing it.
I,
Try again, sing
I
it.
need to get this better. Yeah, is it literally singing it? Is that what they're telling
It's
you
just,
to do? Like going,
it's just do.
Morgan.
No, no, don't do a Matt Berry. Just do. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
sleep.
fair.
It's
Right,
just Morgan, Metal Detective. Um,
yeah. Well, it's been wonderful talking about Morgan, Metal Detective. It's been fantastic. I can't wait. The iconic name. I can't wait for the iconic song in that style, where every word is sung in this singing bizarre way. But yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. And thank you so much for chatting to us about it today.
it's been a pleasure. And like, if you want to play the demo, it's available on Steam. Just search Morgan Metal Detective.
That's capital M, lowercase o, halfway somehow R. Yeah, awesome. I'm sure they will. And everyone go check it out because it is a demo well worth playing. A great little quick try of the game, and you get to hear the voiceover for the mother as well, who is just a ton of fun. If you're having a bad day, it will brighten up your evening. So definitely recommend it. And that was our interview with Harvey Hayman of Studio Morgan about Morgan Metal Detective. A huge thanks to Harvey for joining us and sharing all these incredible details about the game and having a ton of fun. It was a really silly, fun interview. I've absolutely enjoyed it. I'd absolutely recommend to anybody listening, if you want to check out the game, go and play the demo on Steam. It's well worth having a quick look at, and you'll know quite quickly that it's a really endearing, fun game that's going to be fantastic at release, I'm absolutely sure. Make sure to follow Studio Morgan on all social medias to make sure you stay up to date with everything coming to the game. You can of course find links to all their social pages in the description of the video. Thank you so much for tuning in to IndieViews. I hugely appreciate it, and I hope you join us for the next episode.